Yeah, like I was saying, this part three. I was cut off in the last episode. Let's talk about necrophilia. Necrophilia is when you have a fascination with the dead, or sometimes it comes in the form of you having sex with dead bodies. But let's go here. Let's talk about fascination of the dead. Now, I say eating a hamburger is having an infatuation with the dead, or eating a piece of chicken, or even, well, you can't consider plants flesh and blood. Flesh and blood is was considered natural, but you can look at the earth as if it's flesh and blood because there's flesh and blood in the earth. So you can look at a plant as flesh and blood. So it's still a form of necrophilia. You see what I'm saying? Vampires and werewolves, who we are today, we're necrophiliacs. You understand what I'm saying? And this is why we're haunted by our past, because of the sacrificing of the animals, the eating of flesh, the eating of plants. You see? Before we were like, you ever seen DBZ or whatever, talking sensu beans and talking crops? We were loving. Life was like a cartoon, a vivid, actual, real oasis, a paradise inside of a garden that's talked, and we interacted in peace. Once we became carnivores, that's when the disease of necrophiliacs came. You see, and Egypt was the land of the living, and Sudan was the land of the living, and it also became the land of the dead. You see what I'm saying? Now you say, how can you break the curse of necrophilia? You see what I'm saying? How can you break the curse of necrophilia? Well, first you have to start with having knowledge of the disease. Having knowledge of the disease. And taking, instead of taking the less of the greater illnesses. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like being a criminal. See, either you could be in all the way, which means you're a stone cold killer, the biggest bank robber, or you can be a misdemeanor kind of guy. You could be a felony kind of guy or a misdemeanor kind of guy. In this curse of necrophilia, or being necrophiliacs, you have to take the lesser of the illness. And then the disease intensifies. And it actually shows you that you actually are possessed and that you are dealing with supernatural forces and entities that you may feel that are outside of your control. Instead of using street drugs, you may have to use pharmaceutical drugs. This is what some people are saying. Or you may have to take the lesser of a street drug. You may say, I'll smoke a little pot, or maybe I would, in my case, I figure I would smoke tobacco. I'll smoke a cigarette. You know what I mean? Because I can't deal with too much strong drugs because I'm already strong and I've been using them for years, and it just creates bad habits for me, like spending large amounts of money. You know, you know what I mean? And we have that habit as brothers. You see? And then you have to understand the seven deadly sins: greed, lust, envy, pride, hate, and what's the last one? Lying. And then you have seven virtues of love to actually, seven virtues of goodness to counteract. So you say for lying, you have the truth. For shame, you have pride. No, it can't be pride. What is this one? For pride, you have humbleness, humility. For hate, you have love. For greed, you have giving. Or gluttony, you have giving. What was the other ones I was saying? Just et cetera, et cetera. Because my mind is starting to play with me. You know, but I'm telling you, the lust For the dead things in society, necrophilia is the core to all our diseases. The astral projecting out of your body, the intense dreams and vivid dreams, sleeping when you're supposed to be in school, not eating a good right breakfast, not having a balanced diet. All of this is the curse of necrophilia. You see what I'm saying? And it's even worse when you're not entertaining the sun. See, the sun shines. The sun is our governing star, which actually governs the constellation. So when the sun rises, man shall rise and go out and till the garden. You know what I'm saying? But when you're not waking up on a solar channel and you're waking up on a lunar cycle, you're even intensifying your disease of necrophilia. You know, it's not only just about sleeping with the dead. And then you have sleeping with the dead. You know, some of these diseases, you know, as we get older, what do we start to look more like? We start to look dead. We're not living. Our brain is dying. As we're getting older, our brain, our body, our heart is getting weaker and weaker. You see? We're getting weaker and weaker. There's ways to reverse that cycle with modern medicine mixed with the ancient medicines. You know, well, ancient medicines were probably somehow in cahoots with modern medicine. You know what I'm saying? You have to eat. Doctors recommend being 20 pounds overweight. As you get older, you're supposed to gain more weight. So if you were 160 pounds, if the doctor told you that you're supposed to be 160 pounds, you were 5'9", and you were 15 years old. So by the time you get 25, you should be at least 185 and plus. And as you get older, you should develop more, you should have more weight and muscle on your body in order to slow down the disease of necrophilia. You know, life is hard. It is not easier. A grown man, you know, as you get older, you're not supposed to get weaker. As you get older, you get stronger, and your knowledge just expands more. You know, you're not supposed to put the thoughts in your mind in the back of your brain and forget it. The thought's supposed to come from your amygdala gland and go circulate throughout your whole body until you can reach the, which is the peak, is the fornix of thought. And that's when you become the master and that you can control. When you start to have your mind, the back of your mind, the front of your mind, the sides of your mind, when you have all four parts of your mind connecting to the point that it sparks that electricity to the center of your mind in a certain way, that you become a cosmic, your cosmic strength actually becomes impenetrable. You know, as you see a star like a nebula, a nebula when it's blue, that's when it's at its most potent force. When it becomes red, that means that it's getting ready to die. It's dying out. You know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean when it's red, it's not. When it's red, that means it's overheated. You know, when it's ready to explode. So technically, when it's blue, it's just at a neutral state. You know, when it's black, it's at a dormant state when it's sleeping and resting. When it's white, and it's at a traveling state. When it's yellow, it's at a gathering state, a state of building its own strength. You know, colors can define things. If you can unlock the color spectrum, you can learn a lot about science in Earth's minerals and understand what to use them for and how to use them for. And then you could become a chief one day like me. Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. Peace, love, and happiness. One love. Napata.